My name is Amelia Ridgewell. I'm 29 years old. And I need you to understand something before you judge what I did next, before you decide I was petty, dramatic, or attention seeking. I didn't wake up wanting to punish my family. I woke up realizing I'd been negotiating for a seat at my own table my entire life, and they'd been quietly charging me for it. It started on a Thursday, in the most ordinary way. I was in my office in Portland. Glass walls, over-caffeinated air, the hum of Slack notifications, when my phone lit up with my mom's name, Linda. My mother doesn't call during work unless it's serious. She texts. She sends those clipped little updates that make you feel like you're being managed instead of loved. So when I saw her name, I stepped into an empty conference room and answered fast. "Hey, Mom, everything okay?" There was a pause, just long enough to feel like someone swallowing a secret. "Hi, sweetie," she said, voice pitched too bright. "I just wanted to let you know Amy and Mark are having a little get-together this Saturday. Nothing fancy. Just dinner and drinks. Close friends." My sister's name, Amy, still does something to the air around me. Not because I hate her, not because I envy her. Because when you grow up as the other one, even a simple mention of the favorite feels like a warning bell. "Okay," I said carefully. "Sounds fun for them." "Right, exactly. Low-key," Mom rushed. "Just a casual night." Something about the way she repeated it, low-key, casual, nothing, made my skin prickle. She wasn't informing me. She was preemptively defending something I hadn't even questioned. I should have pushed right then. I should have asked, "Why are you calling me about a party I'm apparently not attending?" But I was tired. Work had been relentless, and I've spent years training myself to swallow the small cuts before they bleed. So I just said, "Tell Amy I hope she has a good time." "I will," Mom replied too quickly. "Okay, bye, sweetheart." And the line went dead. Friday evening, I was home in my apartment, still in my work clothes, laptop open on the couch, trying to convince myself I'd relax this weekend, when my phone rang again. This time it was my cousin Hannah. The second I answered, her voice came through like a storm breaking. "Amelia, please tell me you're kidding," she said. "Please tell me you're not actually skipping Amy's engagement party." My body went cold so fast I swear my heartbeat stuttered. "What engagement party?" Silence. Then, softly, like she couldn't believe she had to say it, Hannah replied, "The one your whole family has been planning for months." I sat down hard, like my legs had made the decision without asking me. "Hannah, my mom told me it was just a casual get-together." A sharp laugh, not amused, furious. "Casual?" she snapped. "Amelia, there are 65 people invited. It's catered. There's a professional photographer. There are custom decorations. Mark's parents flew in from Phoenix. People are driving hours. This is not casual." My throat tightened. "Send me the invitation," I whispered. A second later, my phone buzzed with photos. Cream cardstock, gold foil lettering, RSVP cards. The kind of invitation you don't create for a low-key dinner. "Join us for an elegant evening celebrating Amy and Mark's engagement." My eyes blurred, but my brain went razor sharp. I called my mom back immediately. My hands were shaking as the dial tone rang, each beep feeling like a countdown to humiliation. She answered on the third ring. "Hi, sweetie." "Mom," I cut in, voice too steady for how I felt. "I just found out Amy's engagement party tomorrow isn't a casual get-together." A pause, a long one. And in that pause, I could hear her deciding what version of the truth she wanted to feed me. "Oh, honey," she said finally, trying to sound gentle. "Like I said, it's just a small gathering." 65 people is not small, I said. There's catering, decorations, a photographer. Why wasn't I invited to my own sister's engagement party? Another pause. Then the confession, soft, careful, like she was offering me something reasonable. "Well, Amy thought, we all thought, it might be better if you weren't there." For a second, I didn't understand English. Better if I wasn't there. As if my presence was a spill someone didn't want on the carpet. "What does that mean?" I asked, and I hated how small my voice sounded. Mom exhaled like I was making this difficult. "You know, Amelia, you tend to make things about yourself. And with your lifestyle being so different from Amy's, we just thought it would be more comfortable for everyone if this was more of a traditional celebration." Traditional, comfortable, everyone. Words people use when they want to exclude you without admitting they're ashamed of you. I stared at the invitation on my phone, the gold letters glowing like a taunt. "Mom," I said slowly, "I'm her sister, her only sister." "I know, sweetie," she replied, "and that's the worst part." She sounded sincere. "But Amy really wants this day to be perfect. She's worried you might say something inappropriate, or people will ask why you're still single, or why your job keeps you so far away. She just wants to focus on Mark's family and our close friends without Complications. Complications. That was the word. Not daughter, not sister, not family. A complication. Something to manage. Something to hide. Something that makes other people uncomfortable simply by existing. I felt tears rise, hot and humiliating, but underneath them, something else moved. Something colder. I see, I said. And I meant it. I saw my whole life in one clean line. They loved me when I was useful and erased me when I was inconvenient. Well, I added, voice steady again, I hope Amy has her perfect day. Then I hung up. The second the call ended, I started crying. Hard, ugly. The kind of crying that leaves your face swollen and your chest sore. Not just from hurt, from rage. Because I'd been there, over and over. When my dad, Robert, had his gallbladder surgery and they were panicking over the deductible, I wired money without hesitation. When my parents were short on mortgage payments after Dad lost his job, I helped bridge the gap. I flew home for holidays, even when it meant draining my savings and sleeping on a lumpy couch like a guest in a house that was supposed to be mine, too. And now, when my sister had a milestone celebration, something family is supposed to share, they decided I was too risky to include. I wiped my face, staring at my reflection in the dark TV screen. Mascara smudged, jaw clenched, eyes sharp. And then something shifted. Not forgiveness. Not peace. Clarity. I had been saving for months for a vacation I kept postponing because work was always too busy and family always needed something. I had the money. I had the days. I had the ability to leave. So I called my best friend Natalie, who worked at a luxury travel agency, and when she answered, I didn't even say hello properly. Natalie, I said, voice still raw. I need you to work a miracle. I want the most amazing solo trip you can book for this weekend, starting tomorrow morning. Money is not an object. She went quiet for half a second. Amelia, it's Friday night. I know, I whispered. Please, I'm desperate. What happened? My family, I said, swallowing. They just showed me exactly what they think of me. Natalie didn't ask for details. Not then. She just said, okay, stay by your phone. By midnight, she'd done the impossible. A weekend at the Grand WA Resort in Maui. First-class flights. Ocean view suite. Private beach cabana. Spa treatments. Sunset helicopter tour. The total cost made a small, reckless part of me flinch. But a bigger part of me, an older part, felt something close to relief. Because for once, I wasn't paying to be tolerated. I was paying to breathe. Saturday morning, while my family was setting up for Amy's small gathering, I was boarding a first-class flight with a suitcase I packed in under an hour. As the plane lifted off, my phone buzzed with a text from Hannah. They didn't tell me you weren't invited. People are excited to see you. This is going to get messy. I stared at her message, then at the clouds outside the window. And I thought, good, let it. I decided to document the trip on social media. Not with bitterness. Not with a caption that screamed, look what they did to me. But with something sweeter. Because sweetness is what burns the deepest when people know they don't deserve it. My first post was a photo of my first-class seat, champagne in hand, sunlight spilling across the tray table. Sometimes you have to celebrate yourself. Off on a spontaneous solo adventure. Here's to new beginnings and knowing your worth. The likes rolled in. Coworkers commented. Friends cheered. My old college roommate Ashley wrote, "This is why I love you, living your best life." When I landed in Maui, I posted the resort entrance. Tropical landscaping, open-air lobby, the ocean flashing blue behind it. Paradise found. Sometimes the best company is your own. The suite was unreal. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific, a private balcony, a marble bathroom with a soaking tub, complimentary champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries like the resort had decided I deserved softness. By late afternoon, I was at my private beach cabana, hair lifted by the ocean breeze, a new sundress I bought at the airport boutique clinging lightly to my skin. The sky was turning gold, and for the first time in a long time, I felt radiant. Not because I was proving something, because I wasn't begging anymore. I asked another guest to take a photo, me raising my glass, the sunset spilling fire across the water behind me. I posted it at 6 p.m. Hawaii time. Back home, it was 9 p.m., right when Amy's engagement party would be in full swing. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. At first, it was normal. Hearts, comments, you look amazing, you deserve this. Then the tone changed. A message from Hannah. Amelia, are you seriously in Hawaii right now? Then another. Then another. And beneath the surface of all that tropical beauty, I felt it, like distant thunder. My family hadn't just lied to me. They'd lied to an entire room full of people. And I had just handed that room the truth, in high definition. I didn't know what was happening in that house back home while I was sitting barefoot in the sand. I didn't hear the first gasp. I didn't see the way phones came out like reflexes, screens lighting up faces in the soft romantic glow of a party that was supposed to be perfect. All I felt was my own phone vibrating again and again beside my drink, like it was trying to pull me out of paradise by the wrist. At first, I ignored it. I was watching the horizon bleed orange and pink, listening to the ocean breathe. For one evening, I wanted to live in a world where my family's opinion didn't touch me. But the vibration didn't stop. So I picked it up. A new DM from someone I hadn't spoken to in years, one of Amy's high school friends. Wait, are you in Maui right now? Aren't you supposed to be at Amy's engagement party? My stomach dipped. Then another message, this one from Mark's sister, Amanda. Amelia, OMG, you look amazing. But where are you? Mom just asked about you. And then Hannah again. Her texts weren't excited anymore. They were rapid, clipped, like she was reporting from a disaster zone. Okay, it's starting. People are passing your post around. Mrs. Collins just asked Amy where you are. Amy's face just changed. I stared at the screen. The sunset in front of me was still gorgeous, still indifferent, but the air in my chest felt tighter, like my body remembered it was connected to that other place, where my name was being spoken like a problem. I typed back, "What's happening?" Hannah replied instantly. "Mark's sister saw your photo first, showed a couple people, then it spread. Now everyone's looking you up. They're confused, because your posts make it look spontaneous, like today." My thumb hovered over the screen. Spontaneous, today? Exactly. Because if I'd been invited, I would have been there. Because if my family hadn't lied, this wouldn't be unraveling. But of course, unraveling was what terrified them, not my pain. I looked around the beach cabanas, couples laughing softly, a family taking selfies, a server walking past with a tray of cocktails. And somewhere, thousands of miles away, my family's lies were coming apart like cheap stitching. Hannah kept texting. Mrs. Collins just asked Amy directly, "Honey, where is your sister tonight?" Amy said, "She had other plans." Mrs. Collins went, "Other plans? She flew to Hawaii today." Even through text, I could see it, the polite smile freezing, the confusion sharpening into suspicion. Because wealthy families like Mark's, they understand optics. And right now, the optics were brutal. The sister of the bride-to-be was in Maui, glowing in a sunset, while everyone else was clustered under fairy lights eating catered food and pretending that was normal. Hannah's next message made my pulse jump. "Mr. Collins just asked Aunt Linda if you weren't invited." I read it twice, because that was the question my parents didn't want anyone to ask. The one they couldn't answer without exposing themselves. And apparently someone finally did. I waited. I could almost hear it, the silence stretching in that room. Mom stuttering. Dad trying to sound calm. The polite panic behind their eyes. Hannah texted again. "Your mom said it's complicated." And Denise just laughed, like out loud. My Aunt Denise, my dad's sister, the one my mom always called too blunt, which was just a nicer way of saying she told the truth without dressing it in sugar. If Denise was laughing, it wasn't because it was funny. It was because she'd been waiting years for this family to get caught. "Hannah, now your mom is trying. She lives far away. We kept it small." And Hannah, I said, "Small? There are 65 people here." My throat went dry. Hannah, bless her. She'd always been the one who didn't play along when my family tried to rewrite reality. She'd always been the one to look at me like I wasn't crazy for feeling hurt. But I knew what happened next, too. Because once the lie cracks, everyone starts poking at the weak spots. And my mother didn't handle scrutiny well. She handled control well. She handled appearances, but not questions. Hannah's next message came slower, like she was typing while watching something she could barely believe. "Mrs. Collins is upset. She said she asked about you when planning. She says your mom told her you couldn't make it because of work. Now she's like, so you lied to us." My fingers tightened around the phone. I could picture Mrs. Collins, well-dressed, composed, polite, in the way people are polite when they're furious. The kind of woman who can destroy you with a calm sentence. And my mother had chosen to lie to her about me, like I was something embarrassing that needed explanation. "Hannah, Mark looks shocked, like genuinely. He's asking Amy why. Amy is crying, and now she's saying she didn't want drama." My laugh came out sharp and humorless. Drama. That word again. A label they slapped on me when they wanted to justify excluding me. Not because I was chaotic. Because I didn't accept being treated like furniture. Because I didn't sit quietly when something hurt. And in my family, that was the worst sin, naming what was happening. Hannah, Amy just admitted it. She said they didn't invite you because they were worried you'd make inappropriate comments. Mark said we didn't discuss that. My chest squeezed. Mark. I barely knew him beyond holidays and awkward small talk. But I knew this. He wasn't part of their script. He was outside the family system. And that meant he could see it more clearly than anyone raised in it. Hannah's next message came with a pause before it, like she was bracing herself. Aunt Denise just stood up. Oh no. Denise standing up meant the night was about to stop pretending. Hannah continued. She said it loud, like to the room. She said you've done more for this family than anyone. She listed the surgery bills, the mortgage, the holidays. Then she said, and this is how you repay her? I stared at the words on my screen until they blurred, because hearing someone else say it, publicly, did something strange. It didn't comfort me. It didn't fix anything. But it validated the reality I'd been forced to swallow alone for years. I wasn't imagining it. It wasn't sensitivity. It wasn't overreacting. It was real. And now it was echoing through a room full of people who couldn't unhear it. Hannah. The room went dead silent. Like, the photographer stopped taking photos. People are uncomfortable. Mark's parents are leaving. I exhaled slowly. Half of me felt sick. Half of me felt something darker. Not triumph. Not joy. But justice. Because they didn't care about my feelings when no one was watching. Now that people were watching, suddenly my feelings mattered. Because they made my parents look bad. Hannah's next message came with a single word first. Worse. Then, people are leaving early. Amy locked herself in the bathroom. Mark is arguing with your parents in the kitchen. Photographer is packing up. It's ruined. Ruined. That was the word my mother would use. Like the party was a fragile object someone had dropped. Like the real tragedy was that the celebration didn't look pretty. Not that their daughter had been deliberately excluded. I set my phone down on the cabana cushion and stared at the ocean. The sunset was fading now, the sky deepening into purple, the water turning dark glass. And I realized something that made my stomach twist. They were going to blame me, even though I hadn't known. Even though I'd found out last minute. Even though I'd simply refused to stay home and cry quietly like a good, convenient daughter. They were going to call me selfish, dramatic, cruel. Because in my family, consequences were always someone else's fault. The party didn't collapse because they lied. It collapsed because the lie couldn't survive daylight. My phone rang. Not a text. A call. At 10:15 p.m. Hawaii time, which meant it was 1:15 a.m. back home. Only one person would call at that hour. My mother. I stared at her name on the screen, vibrating like a threat. And I knew, before I even answered, that this wasn't going to be an apology. It was going to be a demand. I put the phone to my ear. Amelia, Mom sobbed, the sound raw and hysterical. Honey, you need to come home right now. I closed my eyes. The ocean kept breathing. And I said the only honest thing. Mom, I'm in Hawaii. Please, she cried. The party is ruined. Amy is devastated. Mark's parents left. Everyone's asking about you and your trip. People are saying terrible things. You mean the truth, I said quietly. A sharp inhale on the other end. Amelia, don't do this, she pleaded. Amy needs her sister. She's upstairs crying. She says the whole engagement is ruined. I let the silence stretch. Because that sentence, Amy needs her sister, was something I'd heard my whole life. Only never when I needed mine. Only never when I was the one hurting. Always when they wanted me to show up and absorb the mess. The engagement is ruined because I'm not there, I asked. That doesn't even make sense. Mom's voice cracked. People are judging us. Aunt Denise humiliated us in front of everyone. Mark is furious. You have to fix this. Fix this. There it was. The family role they'd assigned me years ago. Not daughter. Not sister. Crisis manager. Scapegoat. Glue. I have to fix this? I repeated softly. Yes, she insisted, crying harder. You have to. Mom, I interrupted, voice turning dangerously calm. I didn't create this situation. Silence. Then, like a knife sliding out of a sleeve, my sister's voice cut in. Amy had grabbed the phone. You're being so selfish, she screamed through tears. You knew this was my engagement party and you planned this trip to ruin it. My hands went cold around the phone. Amy, I said, I didn't know. Mom told me it was a casual get-together. I found out the truth yesterday from Hannah. That's not true, she shrieked. You knew and you did this to hurt me. You always do this. You always make things about you. I could hear chaos in the background, people talking, someone trying to calm her. And underneath her screaming, something deeper. Fear, because she'd been caught. And the only way she knew how to survive being caught was to make me the villain. I swallowed hard. Amy, I said slowly, check the timestamps. I booked this trip after I found out I wasn't invited. A pause, just a beat. Then a new voice. Mark. Low, tight, controlled. Amelia, he said, and I could hear the strain in his breath. I'm so sorry. I had no idea you weren't invited. I thought you couldn't come because of distance or work. If I'd known, I would have insisted. I stared at the dark ocean, and something in me flickered, not hope, but shock. Because it wasn't my parents defending me. It wasn't Amy. It was the man marrying into my family, calling it wrong. It's not your fault, Mark, I said quietly. You didn't know my family decided I was a complication to manage instead of a sister to celebrate. The line went quiet. I could hear him exhale like he was fighting something. Anger, disgust, maybe even doubt. Then Mom's voice again, softer now, panicked. Amelia, please, just post something. Say you're sorry. Say you had planned it weeks ago. Anything. People are talking. There it was. The solution wasn't remorse. It was cover. They didn't want to heal. They wanted to control the story. I felt my tears come again, this time not from hurt, from the clarity of it. No, I said. What? Mom whispered, like she'd never heard me refuse her. I'm not lying to make you look better, I said. You lied, you fix it. And then, before she could twist my words into guilt, I hung up. My phone immediately started buzzing again. More calls, more texts, but I didn't answer. I set it down and stared out at the water, my chest rising and falling like I'd just run a mile. Because I knew what would happen next. If I didn't play my role, they would punish me. If I didn't soothe Amy, they would call me cruel. If I didn't fix their mess, they would say I'd abandoned them. But as the wind moved across my skin, I realized something else too. For the first time in my life, I didn't care what they called me, because I finally understood the rule of my family. They only loved me when I was useful, and tonight I had chosen to be free instead. I slept for maybe 3 hours that night. Not because the bed wasn't comfortable, it was absurdly comfortable, wrapped in white linen that smelled like citrus and something expensive. I didn't sleep because my phone kept lighting up the room like a warning signal. Missed calls, voicemails, texts stacked on top of each other so fast they blurred into noise. My dad, my mom again, Amy again. Unknown numbers. I knew belonged to extended family who'd suddenly remembered I existed. I put the phone face down. I refused to listen to the voicemails. Because I already knew what they'd say. Come home. Fix this. Don't embarrass us. Your sister is hurting. No one would say, we're sorry. Not really. Not yet. When I finally woke up properly, the sun was already high, turning the ocean into a sheet of silver. For a few quiet seconds, I forgot everything. Then my phone buzzed again. A text. From Aunt Denise. I'm proud of you. Don't let them twist this. They did this, not you. I stared at the message longer than I meant to. Denise had always been the inconvenient truth-teller in our family, the one my parents dismissed as dramatic because she didn't swallow lies to keep the peace. Seeing those words felt like someone pressing a steady hand against my back. Then another text came in, from Hannah. Morning update, things are bad. Mark didn't stay the night. He left with his parents. Your mom has been crying since 6 a.m. Amy hasn't stopped blaming you. I closed my eyes. The guilt crept in automatically, conditioned, reflexive. If I'd just gone, if I'd just stayed quiet, if I'd just been easier. Then I remembered the word, complication, and the guilt curdled into something steadier. Resolve. I got out of bed, wrapped myself in the plush robe, and walked onto the balcony. The ocean stretched out endlessly, indifferent to family politics, to favoritism, to decades of emotional bargaining. I breathed. Then my phone rang again. This time it wasn't my parents. It was a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? Amelia? A woman's voice said, calm, measured. This is Margaret Collins, Mark's mother. My heart skipped. Yes, I said quickly. Hi. I hope I'm not calling too early, she continued gently. I got your number from Hannah. I wanted to speak to you directly. I leaned against the balcony railing. No, it's fine, I said. You don't need to apologize for calling. There was a brief pause. I actually didn't call to apologize, she said. I called because I'm appalled. That word landed heavy. I want you to know, Mrs. Collins continued, that I specifically asked about you during the planning. I wanted to meet you properly. I was told you couldn't make it because of work commitments. My jaw tightened. I'm sorry you were lied to, I said quietly. So am I, she replied, and I'm more sorry that you were excluded from something you should have been part of. She sighed, controlled, restrained. That is not how family works, she added, and it's not something I'm willing to overlook. My throat burned. Thank you, I said. It felt inadequate, but it was all I had. One more thing, she said carefully. Mark and Amy are going to have some serious conversations before anything else happens. Last night raised concerns that can't be ignored. I closed my eyes. Mark deserves honesty, I said. So do you. Yes, she agreed. He does. When the call ended, I stayed there for a long moment, listening to the ocean. Because something had shifted. For the first time, someone outside my family had named what happened as wrong, without excuses, without minimizing it. Not because it embarrassed them, because it violated something fundamental. My phone buzzed again. A text this time, from Mark. Emilia, I haven't slept. I'm horrified by what happened. I had no idea you weren't invited. I thought distance and work were the issue. What bothers me most is Amy's reaction when the truth came out. Instead of apologizing, she blamed you. That's not okay. I stared at the message, my chest tight. Then more followed. I need to see real change in how your family treats you before I'm comfortable moving forward. I've suggested couples counseling. And family therapy? I won't marry into a family that treats people this way. I read it twice. 3 times. I wasn't sure what I felt. Relief. Shock. A strange grief that it took my sister's fiancé, not my parents, to draw that line. I typed back slowly. Thank you for saying this. You didn't cause any of this. But you're right. It needs to be addressed. The rest of the morning passed in fragments. A massage I barely registered. Breakfast I picked at. Messages I skimmed but didn't answer. Then, around noon, my dad called. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. Emilia, he said, voice thick. I owe you an apology. I stayed silent. Your mother and I handled this badly, he continued. We were trying to keep things smooth for Amy, and we made a mistake. A mistake. That word again. Not choice. Not decision. Mistake. Like it was an accident, not a pattern. Dad, I said finally, you didn't forget to invite me. You decided not to. Silence. Then a sigh. We just didn't want drama, he said weakly. There wouldn't have been drama if you'd treated me like family, I replied. The drama happened because you lied. Another pause. I don't want to fight, he said. Your mother's a mess. Amy's a mess. Can you just talk to her? She needs you. There it was. Again. She needs you. Always her. Always at my expense. No, I said. What? He asked, startled. I'm not fixing this, I said calmly. Not this time. Emilia? I was excluded, I continued, voice steady. I was lied to, and when I chose not to sit quietly and take it, I was called selfish. I'm done stepping in to absorb the consequences of decisions I didn't make. He didn't respond right away, so I kept going. I love you, I said, but I'm not available for damage control anymore. When I hung up, my hands were shaking, but it felt different than before. Not like fear, like adrenaline, like the moment after you finally say something you've rehearsed in your head for years. That afternoon, I did the helicopter tour. The doors were open, the wind roaring in my ears as we lifted over the coastline. Whales breached in the distance, massive and graceful, rising out of the water like punctuation marks in the middle of the ocean. From up there, everything looked smaller. The resort, the roads, even the stories we tell ourselves about obligation and guilt. I took a photo from inside the helicopter and posted it. Sometimes you have to rise above to see what really matters. Grateful for the perspective. The comments poured in, supportive, warm, proud. And for the first time, I let myself enjoy it without guilt. Because I wasn't showing off. I was reclaiming space. That evening, my phone rang again. This time it was Amy. I stared at her name, then answered. Carlin, as she started, then stopped. Emilia. Yes, I said. Her voice was smaller now, flat, exhausted. Mark says he's not sure about the wedding, she said. I'm sorry to hear that, I replied honestly. But this isn't about me. He says you were treated unfairly, she continued. He says I need to apologize. Do you want to apologize? I asked. Silence. I just wanted my engagement party to be perfect, she said finally. I didn't think it was wrong to want that. And you thought excluding me was the way to get it, I said. I didn't think you'd react like this, she snapped. Everyone was talking about you instead of me. I closed my eyes. Amy, I said quietly, people weren't talking about me being in Hawaii. They were talking about why your sister wasn't invited. Another pause. I think you should say sorry, she muttered. I'm not asking what Mark wants, I said. I'm asking what you want. Silence again. Then, defensively, I don't think I did anything wrong. That was it. The line. The moment the door closed. Then we don't have anything to talk about, I said. And I hung up. I blocked her number. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. Because boundaries aren't punishments. They're protection. That night I slept deeply. No phone buzzing. No guilt clawing at my chest. Just the sound of the ocean and the unfamiliar feeling of peace. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for my family's approval. I was learning how to live without it. I didn't realize how tired I was until I got home. Not jet lag tired, bone deep tired. The kind that comes from carrying the same emotional weight for so long you forget it isn't normal. Tuesday evening, I sat on my couch in Portland with my suitcase still half unpacked, the faint smell of sunscreen clinging to my clothes, like evidence of another version of myself, one who had stood barefoot on a beach instead of bracing for impact. My phone was quiet for the first time in days. I scrolled through the photos from Hawaii. The sunset, the helicopter, my own face, open, relaxed, unguarded. I looked different. Not because of the light, because of the absence of permission-seeking in my eyes. And then, like a switch flipping, the memories started lining up. Not as feelings, as facts, receipts. I opened my notes app and began listing them, not dramatically, not angrily, clinically. Age 22, college graduation. Parents spend entire ceremony talking about Amy's nursing acceptance. No dinner after. We'll celebrate later. We never did. Age 27. Promoted to senior marketing manager. Youngest in my department. Dad's response, "That's nice. Did you hear Amy made Dean's List again?" 2 years ago, Dad's gallbladder surgery. Transferred $8,000, same day, no hesitation. 6 months later, my car totaled. Insurance lowballed me. Asked for $3,000 short-term loan. Told they were still recovering financially. 2 weeks after that, parents give Amy $4,000 to furnish her apartment with Mark. Seeing it laid out like that did something irreversible. It stripped the narrative of emotion. This wasn't favoritism I imagined. This was a pattern with numbers attached. I stared at the list until my chest stopped tightening and something colder took over. Decision. I called my parents. Both of them. Put the phone on speaker. They answered together, already braced, already defensive. "Amelia," Mom said quickly, "we've been so worried." "I need you to listen," I interrupted. "Not explain, not justify, just listen." Silence. Then Dad said, "Okay." I took a breath. "What happened this weekend wasn't about a party," I began. "It was about you deciding that I'm an embarrassment to this family, and then lying to me about it." "That's not true," Mom rushed. "We never—" "Linda," I said, using her name deliberately, "you told Mark's parents I couldn't come because of work. You told me it was a casual dinner. You told Amy it was about perfection. Those are 3 different stories." More silence. I continued. "You excluded me because you were worried I'd make people uncomfortable, because my life doesn't match Amy's. And instead of owning that, you called me a complication." Mom inhaled sharply. "We didn't mean it like that." "But that's how you treated me," I said. "And this isn't the first time." Dad shifted audibly. I listed it all. The graduation, the promotion, the money, the car, the apartment. I said the numbers out loud. I let them hang in the air. When I finished, no one spoke for several seconds. Then Dad said quietly, "We didn't realize it felt that way." "That's because you didn't have to feel it," I replied. "You benefited from it." Mom started crying. "We just wanted Amy's day to be perfect," she said again, like it was a shield. "And you decided that meant I couldn't be there," I said. "Do you understand what it feels like to know your own family thinks your presence would ruin something important?" No answer. So I went on. "Here's what's going to change," I said calmly. "I'm done being treated like a second-class member of this family. I'm done being expected to contribute financially and emotionally while being excluded from milestones. I'm done being called selfish when I choose myself." Mom's voice shook. "Amelia, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm stepping back," I said. "No holidays, no financial help, no crisis management. Not until there's accountability and real change." Dad's voice tightened. "You're punishing us." "No," I said. "I'm protecting myself." When the call ended, I didn't cry. I felt empty, but clean. The aftermath came in waves. Texts from extended family. Some supportive, some cautious, some silent. Amy posted vague quotes on social media about betrayal and people who abandon you when you need them most. I didn't respond. Mark postponed the wedding indefinitely. Hannah told me he said he couldn't marry into a family that normalized cruelty, and that Amy's refusal to take responsibility scared him more than the party ever could. My parents alternated between apologies and guilt. "You're tearing the family apart. We raised you better than this. She's your sister." I stopped answering, and something surprising happened. My life got lighter. I slept better. I focused at work. I stopped flinching every time my phone rang. 2 weeks later, my boss called me into his office. "I've noticed a shift in you," he said. "More confidence, stronger boundaries. You're advocating for yourself in ways you didn't before." I laughed softly. You could say that. I was promoted a month later. Not because of Hawaii, because I stopped apologizing for taking up space. I planned another solo trip, this time to Tuscany. Not as an escape, as a promise to myself that I would no longer wait for permission to live beautifully. The night before I booked the flights, my dad called again. Amy's having a hard time, he said. She needs her sister. I closed my eyes. She made it clear she only needs me when it's convenient, I replied. When it was time to celebrate, I was too much of a complication. He didn't argue, because there was nothing left to say. Some people learn through consequences. Others never do. Either way, I was done shrinking. 3 months later, Hannah called me on a quiet Sunday morning. I was making coffee, sunlight slanting through my kitchen window, my passport sitting on the counter because I'd been comparing Tuscany itineraries like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Are you sitting down?" she asked. I smiled faintly. "That depends. Is this bad news or predictable news?" A pause. Mark and Amy broke up. I closed my eyes, not in relief, not in satisfaction, but in recognition. Of course they did. "What happened?" I asked. Hannah exhaled. According to Mark, the engagement party wasn't the problem. It was the moment everything else came into focus. He said Amy couldn't take responsibility for anything, not the exclusion, not the lying, not the way she turned on you when she got caught. I leaned against the counter. He said family therapy was non-negotiable, Hannah continued. Amy refused, said you poisoned him against her. There it was, the final rewrite of the story. In Amy's version, I wasn't the sister who was hurt. I was the villain who dared to survive without permission. "She's blaming you," Hannah added gently, publicly and privately. "I assumed she would," I said, and I meant it, because accountability requires humility, and Amy had been protected from humility her entire life. An hour later, my parents called. Together, again. "She's devastated," Mom said. "She's not eating. She's barely sleeping. She needs you." I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar tug, guilt reaching for old anchors. "Linda," I said quietly, "she didn't need me when she decided I shouldn't be invited to her engagement party." "That's not fair," Dad snapped. "This is different." "No," I replied, "this is exactly the same." Silence. "I'm not abandoning her," I added. "I'm refusing to be blamed for consequences I didn't create." Mom cried. Dad argued. I didn't budge. When the call ended, I sat in the quiet and felt something unexpected. Peace. Not the fragile kind that comes from temporary calm. The sturdy kind that comes from choosing yourself consistently. I went to Tuscany the next month. I ate slow meals and drank wine that tasted like sunlight. I walked through vineyards older than my family's grudges. I took photos, but fewer this time. I didn't need witnesses anymore. When I came back, work felt different. Not heavier. Aligned. A few weeks later, during a late meeting that turned into a long conversation, I realized I was laughing, really laughing, with someone I'd known professionally for over a year. His name was Daniel. He didn't ask why I wasn't closer to my family. He didn't flinch when I said I valued independence. He didn't call my boundaries drama. He called them strength. 6 months later, he proposed. Quietly, thoughtfully, without spectacle. I said yes without hesitation. We decided on a small destination wedding in Santorini. No performance. No politics. Just people who actually wanted to celebrate us. I sent my parents an invitation. With conditions. Come only if you can celebrate without rewriting, minimizing, or making it about old wounds. They said they understood. Time will tell. Amy hasn't reached out. She posts quotes about betrayal and abandonment still. I don't respond. Because here's the truth I finally learned. Being excluded from the wrong party saved my life. That weekend in Hawaii wasn't revenge. It was revelation. It showed me exactly who I'd been shrinking for and how unnecessary that shrinking was. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't confronting people who hurt you. It's building a life so full, so grounded, so unmistakably yours, that their absence stops feeling like a loss.